you doing, guys? Thank you so much for coming to hang out now for the next little bit. So early in the morning and all, it's great to be here. The first of the annual AthVentureCon.
Oh, very well.
No pressure, like. But delighted to have you all here. Before I start, I just want to make sort of two little disclaimery things. For GDPR service purposes, so for data protection, I'm going to be changing the names of anything in my stories to protect the fictional, and I won't be mentioning any organizations or groups that I'm part of by name, just to make sure that's all clear. There also may be a little bit of bad language, which is to preserve the integrity of important quotes, and also that I don't have to monitor myself too much, but just apologies if that's too much for some people. So, who am I? I'm Brian Grimm Donnelly. In work they call me Brian, my friends call me Grimm. Declan O'Houlihan in 4th class called me Donnelly. I didn't like him. But you guys can call me Brian or Grimm, whichever suits you. I'm a social care worker. I've been working since 2008 supporting adults in the community with autism. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy my job quite a lot. And in the last couple of years, I've begun working using Dungeons & Dragons as like a therapeutic tool to practice social skills, develop confidence, develop communication. And it's been really successful. It's been bloody great. It's a lot of fun. And I'd like to just sort of hang out with you guys for the next half hour or so, discuss a little bit of my experiences in using this, give a couple of anecdotes, and if you guys have any questions or anything or comments, shoot them up and make this really conversational and chill, and it'll take some pressure off me. So do feel free to speak up. I will say I'm not the only person in this field doing this, actually using Dungeons & Dragons therapeutically or psychologically goes back to like the early 90s. There was studies and there's some very good work being done on it today. There's one fantastic clinician I'm aware of, Dr. Megan Connolly, who uses Dungeons & Dragons for everything from teaching teenagers life skills to helping soldiers with PTSD. It's also been used a lot by other clinicians in helping people with addiction and substance abuse problems. My own field of expertise is autism support, so that's where I've mostly focused and using it to build sort of social skills and communication ability. I got my first chance to hop into this because obviously a lot of organizations are not hugely keen on like trying out new or interesting or innovative things. It's a bit scary. But COVID gave me an opportunity to get a bit experimental because we didn't shut down. The people who required our support still needed our support during the worst of the lockdown and maybe even a little bit more. So we had to find ways to provide support and to work with people when maybe we couldn't go to the community, we couldn't go to their house, we couldn't have them in the centre, but what are you going to do? And telecommuting can be a bit difficult, particularly if you have someone who maybe struggles with communication. Sitting for 2 or 3 hours in front of a Zoom screen is not necessarily gonna satisfy all your needs. And Dungeons & Dragons became an amazing tool for that, where I was able to very easily, 2 or 3 times a week, sit down for 2, 3, 4 hours and have everyone who's involved fully engrossed, fully engaged, and looking for a little bit more. So that was a fantastic benefit. And because I got that opportunity and because it worked so well, we've now rolled it out a bit further, expanding it, bringing in more service users into the program. And also I'm running workshops now for social workers to teach them how to play, because there's no good just having one guy in the center who knows how to play the game. We need to spread the love. So I did my first workshop last year on that. I've got 2 more booked now for the next couple of months. So we're trying to get people educated and spread the good RPG love and move that forward. So with that, let's lash into some of the examples, because it's been fabulous. The last 3 years working with this, we've generated a lot of really fun examples and demonstrations and been able to work through different ideas and different situations with people. And I think one of the big ones, one of the ones that for me is maybe right up front and center, is allowing people to exercise being a badass. Because that is fantastic. We are all a badass on some level, but not everyone gets a chance to show that. Not everyone gets the benefits for your own confidence and self-esteem that come with experiencing that. And Dungeons and Dragons obviously is a fantastic place where we get to exercise that. We get to exercise our assertiveness, our confidence, and we get to save the day, which is great, because how often in your day-to-day life do you really get a condensed experience of that? And particularly for someone maybe who has special needs or difficulties, that their opportunities to explore being a badass are even more limited. So it's great to get that. One particular individual who I will call Hammerrock, because that's what he called himself, was this fantastic Aarakocra, so a big bird man, big warrior, huge, monstrous eagle man. And in real life was someone who, despite being incredibly intelligent, incredibly well-spoken, was so shy and self-conscious that he would often just prefer to say nothing. And that's not ideal, because he was an awesome dude. But through being Hammerrock, through experiencing these things, he has had these opportunities to express how much of a badass he is. The first instance where he blew me off my feet, the lads were in a deep, dark marsh. They'd been parleying with a group of hags, and things had gone sideways. The lads went into a huddle, and they were pretty sure they were going to have to fight their way out. So they rolled initiative, and Hammerrock was up first. And a guy who, again, normally would be very reserved to say anything. Maybe no is probably the largest word he would say to you. Decided that he had a plan. He was up first, and he had a tactic. He was going to grab one of the witches and fly straight up in the air. Take her out of the fight immediately, so the other lads could separate them, divide and conquer. Great plan. He steps up, he rolls his grapple check, he does really well. It's all going fantastic for Hammerrock. And I say, right, here's an opportunity. So I ask him, would you like to say anything? You don't have to, but would you like to say something as you grab her and fly to the air? And he leaned right into the camera and says, tweet, tweet, motherfucker. And everyone broke up laughing. It was a fantastic experience. It took maybe 5 minutes to resolve the turn because everyone was cheering and clapping for him. And he was the ultimate badass in that moment. And possibly, for the first time in his life, he got to express how awesome he was inside. And that was a hugely beneficial thing. And I've seen more instances then, not every day, not every time, but that confidence is building and growing, one block after another. There are other things we can explore with it. Some of the things are quite simple. It's all well and good to be able to kill witches, but we have individuals who maybe would have difficulty in going to a shop, and they're able to practice that. Or, oh my goodness, my brain's just gone blank. There was another example there. Go to a shop, or I'll come back to it later. Fantastic skill we can explore through it is communication. Obviously, role-playing games are a lot about communication. I have to tell you who I am, where I am, what I'm doing, what I can smell, what I can see, and I've got to ask those questions back. And we've got to have this dialogue going constantly. For a lot of young people with autism, communication is not the easiest thing. So being able to express that, being able to explore different aspects of that is really beneficial. And it's not just, it can then, So while we're exploring it, we can actually tailor to individuals. So if someone has a particular communication difficulty, if they don't know how to ask for a particular thing or to express a particular thing, we can work through that. I have another individual, Hanagon, and Hanagon had, well, it's a bit unfortunate. He tended to overshare, which is a fine thing amongst friends and family, but when you're in the public, when you're meeting new people, it can be something that can leave you very vulnerable, or it can be put up a bit of a red flag where it outs you to others and makes you a bit of an outsider. So it was a lesson I wanted to work with him. Can we moderate how much we're telling people? So his first experience of this going horribly wrong was when he was traveling with a polymorphed dragon. You've heard of a luck dragon. She was an unlucky dragon. And she was polymorphed to a woman and who was his traveling companion. They were in the capital city and they were looking to get a wagon to the next town. So he went to a wagon driver he knew. How are you, Jim? And said, can we get a ride up the road? He said, of course you can. And who's your friend? Oh, this is my friend. Yeah, she's an ancient eternal being who was cursed with bad luck and everyone around her at all times suffers ill fortune. And the Jim said, well, that's really nice. You're going to have to find a different wagon. Bye. And he was quite shocked by this. A lot of our guys would have very curated lives where parents and caregivers sort of step back from negative ramifications. And generally in the world, people are nice, which is a good thing. Certainly not against that. But even then, when we're in other social situations with strangers, people will recognize that someone may have a neurological difference and they'll respond with kindness, which is super, and I certainly encourage that. But it doesn't always lead to learning and development, and it can leave you a bit short when you then meet someone who's not kind, who will take advantage or will see this. And that's again a benefit we have when we're playing Dungeons and Dragons. We can drop in untrustworthy people. We can drop in people who are bad faith actors who will take advantage of someone, and we can role play through that and practice. Well, if someone is a bit of an arse, well, how do we deal with that? I have one particular arse who I'm very fond of. A villain who is one of those people who pretends to be your friend. Hello, sport, how are you? He walks up and he's rolling sleight of hand to stab you the entire time. And one night in the tavern, my friend and his dragon lady friend and a couple of other travelling companions are having a pint when in walks the villain. And he strides over and has a little chat, and he'll buy us a round of pints. Yeah, it's a shame he nearly died there last week when I set up that explosion, but we're all friends. And my player decided that he would tell him everything he knew about him, everything he'd done to work against him in the last week, and laid out all his plans in front of the villain, which was not a great idea. The villain said, all right, fair enough. Stepped outside and waited outside the pub until they left, in which case he knifed one of the travelling companions and left her for dead. Which, look, I'm an arsehole DM. But this was important, and it came to fruition a couple of weeks later where we were in a very similar situation. And Hanagon was talking to someone who was very clearly untrustworthy, bit of a liar, bit of a scumbag. And he said, here are all my... And he stopped. He said, wait a second, I've been here before. And decided he didn't need to tell people that were clearly untrustworthy everything he knew. And that was a wonderful lesson. But that lesson maybe took 3 months in and out of sampling it, giving it a go. And we get it wrong, but that's okay, because it is only a game. We can get it wrong, and we can try again. We can explore failure, and we can work towards success. And boom. Where am I? Ooh, while we're exploring things, it's a fabulous one. I don't know, this may be just the people I know, this may not be maybe a bit of a generalization, so I apologize if it is. Teenage, early 20s men are not great at expressing their emotions. That might be a generalization, but in my experience, I think it's fairly justified. In my experience, 40-year-old men are not that great at exploring their feelings sometimes. But that is something we've been able to experiment, where we've had people who require sympathy, people who are in need, people who are just going through a hard time. We can experience that. We can have these emotional experiences. One that really sticks out to me was where a young man, whose name was Knight, was traveling with a merchant crew on a ship. It was a really cool, like fantasy, semi-flying ship, captained by a dwarf with lizard men in the riggings, and there was a pair of twin automaton steampunk guys, Bolt and Cog, who made all the ropes, and they were great fun. And they were attacked by a kraken. And during the battle, one of the two twins, the steampunk robots, is pulled overboard. And of course, being made of metal, he can't swim. And he just goes right to the bottom. And after the battle, while they were repairing the masts and the riggings and getting the cans back in place, the surviving twin of the robot is leaning against the back wall of the boat and watching the bubbles pop to the surface of where his brother is somewhere on the seafloor. And Knight walked over to him, picking him out of all the NPCs sort of doing their things and looking for help. I said, yeah, you look like you're a bit off. And the robot was like, well, I'm feeling a bit weird. I'm feeling like I miss my brother and I don't really understand this. I don't know what's going on. So Knight took 10 minutes out of the game and sat down and explained grief to this robot and worked through why he was feeling what he was feeling and that he was missing his brother and that was okay and he could move on. And I cried just a tiny bit. It was really bloody good and very unexpected. I just like putting in really dark things for my own flavour, but he jumped on it and explored it and was able to work through this emotion in a very safe, very controlled environment. What else do we have? Sorry guys, I think I have a couple more here. Oh, well, yeah, let's go that direction. It's been fantastic as well for leveling the playing field. When you're in sort of a clinical environment, there is a necessary distinction between people who are staff and people who are service users. I mean, this is sort of in law, it's very required, there's plenty of very good reasons for it. But it's also unfortunate because we're all people and we should be interacting in that sort of way. And the games have allowed a wonderful, it's leveled the playing field. When we sit down to play, the party is made up of staff and service users, but when they're at the table, they're a team. And they're all working together. There's no one who's at any different level than anyone else. We're all leveling up together, we're all working together. And it's allowed friendships to build and grow. It's also allowed some of the service users to practice their own leadership skills, where they've then decided they want to DM a game. So they've gone on and they've had to organize everything from setting the time, getting the people in, even teaching rules. I had our assistant psychologist be taught the rules for the World of Darkness system because he was coming across from Dungeons and Dragons and didn't know how to play. So you okay with a question there?
I was going to ask that question about having people I think mix them up to teams.
It's all mixed.
With all different games like D&D, I guess is there certain games that work better than others, or more rules, less rules? Or?
To be honest, I just go with player preference. I have most of my players are fairly new to the game and are quite happy just to play, and for them I would tend towards 5e as just a generic thing. If they take the hobby somewhere else, they can probably fit in with other groups with it. I do have one individual in particular who is he doesn't like things that are too mainstream. So he's big into World of Darkness, or he'd rather something more crunchy, and he likes to play Pathfinder. I've had to read a lot of rule books in the last few years. I tend to go rules light myself in my own style, but I've had to learn all these other systems as part of it. But it's been great, and again, having like my service user teach me a system is a wonderful sort of reversal of the standard power dynamic. And that's amazing to get. It is so empowering for the individual. It puts staff in their place, which could probably happen more on more occasions. Sorry.
Yeah, I just what you were saying there, and what you said, pick up on what you said about the groups, including both service users and staff.
Yes.
So what you said earlier on about having to teach staff how to run games. I mean, if you're not a gamer, it's hard maybe for like psychologists. Well, maybe not to learn how to run D&D, but you have this situation where you have someone who is a dungeon master and also, let's say, a psychologist or a therapist, and they're trying to do both at the same time. So what you said there just now about the groups being mixed,
yes,
having service users and staff. I mean, can you sort of expand on that? That seems to me like an idea that would work where the person who was dungeon master was not also responsible for the service support.
Well, so it's a mix. First and foremost, a lot of the staff, I wouldn't even attempt to teach them how to DM just yet. So I'm just teaching them how to play. So we have people who it would be very foreign to, they maybe have never even played a video game before, and they're coming in to do this. So just getting them a base level understanding is important. With our sort of standard games, it's normally one member of staff in the party and one member of staff who's DMing. So then that allows quite a lot of control if you need to bring it in a certain direction, or you need to address a particular thing or whatever. You have flexibility. We'd also be like texting each other under the table and stuff as well. But then when we're currently playing a game, sort of a side quest. One of my service users asked after Christmas, could he take 2 months of the year and run a mini campaign he had an idea for. So in that group at the moment, it's 2 staff, 2 service users in the party, and 1 service user DMing the session. And that's great. And again, we have if we needed to steer things, we could. But honestly, there's a lot of sort of natural learning that's just emergent from the process. If we're talking about communication skills, being able to DM, and for the 2 service users, for there to be a player with an issue and the DM, who are both service users, and they are now going to have to communicate this issue, work it through, and resolve it together. We can just sit back and watch them, make notes. It's fantastic. They're doing our jobs for us. And there's also like all the organizational skills that go into it, leadership. So a lot of the learning is just emergent from playing it. I mean, the game is almost preset, custom made to develop social skills, to develop communication skills. Actually, to be honest, if you can get your communication skills and your social skills down, I think we'd all be doing much better if we all could do that. And that is sort of a takeaway from this, that yes, while it is, there's an emerging field of using these games in a clinical capacity, I think it just shows that there is an inherent quality that is very beneficial within them, and that we can all be benefiting from. We can look into that and if we're aware of that we can suck a little bit more out of it.
You find any issue then with so like then service users then joining local groups, like a neighborhood group or a school group?
We are looking into that for this year.
A bit like it's a bit of like a layer of protection.
So we are looking into that with a couple of the guys. But that has been, because again, this is sort of a project that's emerged out of COVID. We are quite cautious before we're moving back out into the wider community with a lot of our activities, but that is something that's on the cards for this year. But besides that, there's also just been very nice development where we have service users now who are interested in going out for lunch together. And these would be lads who would otherwise perhaps spend 24 hours of the day in their bedroom on the computer, who are now saying, well, this is my friend. We've killed dragons together. Let's go for lunch. And that's pretty fantastic. I'm looking at the time there. I only had about a half an hour planned for this. And I think we've hit some pretty good points. But I see some more questions, and I'd love to keep chatting about this.
I was question as a thought that occurred to me about the online.
Yes.
Because, so I'm in university and we recorded everything during COVID. We did everything through Teams. But I actually found, because someone in one of my classes at the start of the year last semester handed me a card and said, I'm non-verbal.
Okay.
And I said, right, now as it turns out, for people who were not in the room, I was using Microsoft Teams anyway, because people were sick or something. So everything was being streamed. So I realized that person could actually use the chat up the side of the screen. And so now I've said, okay, right, going forward, every class, I will fire up Teams on the screen, because it's like Roll 20 or VT3, it looks exactly the same. And people who don't want to, because I do a lot of discussion in class, but people who don't want to do it, I say, right, fine, well, you can type the words.
I've used chat very similar when someone is having difficulty making a choice or something, so to reduce the difficulty, because making a choice is hard. Talking and expressing it is another step of hard. So to reduce that, I've also used the chat function in, we actually use Jitsi Meet, but same deal. You can bang it up there, and it can be as simple as, if I'm asking a question, you can write, Y or N, and put that in there, and we can move forward. And you've made your choice. We have listened to you. You have expressed yourself, but let's make that, if that's challenging, we can make that as easy as possible. And yeah, there is so much you can exploit in those programs. Just something as simple as a chat box is a really powerful tool for some people. Yep.
Do you use visuals, or do you use a map program or anything when you play online? Theatre of the mind?
Yeah, no, I do. I would have traditionally in my own home game been very theatre of the mind, but the more I've done this, and also the more lads I'm bringing in, I have leaned on maps because it allows everyone to have a very clear understanding of where you are and where you are in relation to everyone else. So again, we're sort of reducing any unnecessary mental load so we can work on the things we really want to explore. Yeah.
Just another thing on the chat function, just for a sec. There is a way you can get subtitles on some of those things, which is also really helpful.
Cool.
On video calls, you can get subtitles.
I have never seen that.
You can. I've had people in, because I have students in Egypt, and they're talking in Arabic, and I'm getting crossing subtitles in English.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, we are so close to like universal translator and stuff.
Getting there.
Well, what do you use for that?
It comes up on Teams.
It's on Google Meet as well, it's closed captions.
Now, sorry, you had a question as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask what your thoughts were on the LARP format, especially as COVID restrictions.
I've never LARPed. I would love to LARP. That looks like so much fun.
You totally should.
I totally should. You're 100% right. I love theatre and stuff anyway. So, yeah, putting all that together, I do have to give it. Is there a LARP thing in Ireland? Is there a LARP community?
I've been out of the scene for a long time.
Okay.
It used to be the Campbell.
Fair enough.
There used to be, there is a problem getting it restarted with insurance for the field LARPs.
That makes sense.
There are LARPs, there were LARPs at WarpCon, there will be LARPs at GaelCon.
I was aware that, at the cons, at GaelCon and stuff, there would have been ones. But like a larger community, you see some of the stuff that goes on in Norway and Germany and stuff where they're out in fields for a full weekend kicking the crap out of each other. Brilliant. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Everyone happy? Did anyone learn anything interesting? Brilliant. Is everyone having a really good time? Looking forward to the rest of the con?
Yay.
Brilliant.
You're running a game later as well.
I am
right?
running a game. If I don't know if it's fully booked yet. It's going to be pretty fun. It's called Frostbite. It's going to be like Hateful Eight mixed with like Assault on Precinct 13. It's going to be really good. Should be fun. Should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. And I need like at least 4 players. We've got room for 6. Cool. Guys, I'm going to go get a cup of tea if we're all done here. Thank you so much for coming to speak to me. And have a great weekend.